Well, hello everybody on YouTube. It's the Wingnut. Oh my goodness, fall is hitting hard. It's a week before Thanksgiving, and this is beautiful. Look at this, like the fall colors and shit. It is actually quite peaceful. I'm not going to take the interstate on the way home. I'm actually going to take a different route and talk a little bit about a subject that's popped up a couple times in the news, and it made a lot of waves last year, especially when some of the things that happened that I'm going to talk about. And what I'm going on about, what I'm getting to, is autonomous cars. So I've tried to cover the subject before, and I wasn't able to release the videos because I kind of got a little wound up about it. So I guess I'm going to try my best to stay on course and not lose my ever-loving mind like I did the last time I tried to film this. So autonomous cars. What I mean by autonomous cars is cars that are self-piloting. Alright, or some of the autonomous features on cars, such as adaptive cruise control and adaptive braking. Alright, some of the other autonomous features they have are the little rear view indicators that let somebody know there's somebody in their blind spot. So, those things. So those are, I have a love-hate relationship with those kind of things, and here's why. Alright, when they put those on a car, it's meant to be a safety feature, so an attentive driver has more foreknowledge of what's going on around them, or just more knowledge, period, about what's going on around them. The downside is people will take that same technology and use it as a way to be less intuitive about what's going on around them. They use it as a crutch, not as an aid, I guess you would say. Or they just use it and make it the reason they never turn their necks ever again. Or in the case of a few of the autonomous cars that are self-driving, people just get on their phones and play on their phones while the car's making decisions. A couple of cases I want to bring up is, the AMA has brought to light, some interesting data. They're noticing that 40% of the time, autonomous car systems, and this includes, of course, your blinker, your blind spot detectors, your self-driving cars, and your adaptive cruise control, doesn't recognize motorcycles. Alright, what that means is if a motorcycle is dead center of a lane, it will recognize that there's something there, but it doesn't recognize that it's a motorcycle. But however, if like most motorcyclists, we ride in either one side of the lane or the other. I don't know if that guy was trying to get over or he just drifted, but we either ride in like this side of the lane or that side of the lane. And the reason for that is we're trying to avoid like oil slicks and debris and stuff that tires tend to kick to the center of the lane. So we as motorcycle riders don't want to be in there, and it's just good lane positioning, and you're right behind the driver of the most vehicles, so they can clearly see you in their rear view. So you have that. Now they're finding that some of these autonomous systems don't actually detect a motorcycle, or if it does detect the motorcycle, it doesn't understand what it is, and it makes a slow reaction. For instance, last year there was a young lady that was hit walking her bicycle across the street. The car actually picked her up 6 seconds before the impact, but only recognized what she was 1.3 seconds before it ran her over. So you got that. So the computer might notice something's there, but it may not decide that it's something to worry about. And that's a bit worrisome, you know. If these systems can't clearly define what a person walking a bicycle is, that's a lot smaller than what I am. You know what I mean? And I have seen some systems on cars that don't recognize, you know, that have the blind spot sensors, that don't even realize I'm there until I'm all the way up in their blind spot. So, you know, you have that too. So, you know, it seems like what they're doing is they're building these systems to drive cars, but they're not building these systems with all obstacles or situations in mind when it comes to motor vehicles. It seems like it's motorcycles, bicyclists, that kind of thing are an afterthought. Another case in point, you know, I talked about how in the case of where those vehicles are supposed to be operated, the autonomous vehicles, the self-driving vehicles, the Ubers and the Teslas, there was an incident where a guy was riding his motorcycle and the Tesla didn't realize that what was in front of it was a motorcycle, and the operator of the Tesla was not paying attention, and they rear-ended motorcyclist because it couldn't recognize it to slow down for its adaptive systems. And it's not like some woo-woo magic stuff when it comes to what makes these systems work. It's a very complex algorithm and recognition system that's built around some high-tech sensors, you know, like serious high-tech, not just radar, but LiDAR, or LiDAR, I don't know how it's pronounced, you know, lasers. I mean, it's really, 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 you know, high-tech. But I'm finding that every time I hear one of these or read one of these stories about a autonomous car causing an accident, each time the operator of the car isn't operating the car, they're not sitting there paying attention to what's going around with them. They are literally playing on their phones, or like the one lady that got just recently is doing got sentenced for manslaughter. She was riding in the back because she was tired or drunk. I don't know, don't remember. But I'll put a link to all the articles I'm talking about down below. The AMA, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get these technology groups to consider involving itself more with the motorcycle community by paying attention to what we are, our cross sections, and the sad thing is there's a couple of people who have figured this out, and they're actually teaching the computers that do this work how to identify motorcyclists better. So the car will be more easily recognize us as a motorcycle rider, which is really cool. So you got that, you know. On top of that, it's just, I just don't trust these type of systems, and it's not because, you know, Skynet's going to get us. And let me explain. While these systems do make it safer, it only makes it safer for the car and the person that's inside the car. It's not making it safer for everybody else, because it's relying heavily on what the car can and cannot see or recognize what it sees. So if I'm in California and I decide to lane split, you know, a car can decide to change lanes and not pick up that I'm there lane splitting and just take me out. Well, the failure rate between what the car recognizes and what people recognizes when it involves accidents or incidences with motorcycles isn't much different. I think it's like 40% of the time is the error, whereas for people it's 60%. And while you're saying, well, that's better, the difference is as a person making a conscious decision, not an autonomous object that a person is sitting in. So I mean, I think it should be a little bit more regulated than what it is. I don't think these vehicles should be on the roads right now. And they are on the roads. Some of them are. Some of them have that feature. I don't think that should be on the roads at this time until they can prove that they've figured it out. Because if they can't pick up a young woman walking a bicycle, how's it going to pick up a motorcycle? You know, how's it going to recognize a kid walking across the street? You know, that's, while it may be bought with the intention of being safer, the majority of people that buy these things buy it so they don't have to worry about paying attention to what's going on around them. I'm still not saying that it's a bad thing. I just don't think it should be as free reign as it is right now with that stuff. And it has some regulation, it has some rules, but it should be tested a hell of a lot more. Because people who buy vehicles that are autonomous are not going, when they first get the vehicle, they're going to treat it like any other vehicle. But once they get comfortable with it, that's it. Get game over. They're going to let that vehicle do all that stuff that they used to have to worry about for them, and they're not going to pay attention anymore. But what's the point? The vehicle knows what it's doing. You know, it's like the when you go on a horse ride and you get on the horse that, you know, 20 times a day does the same circuit back to the barn. Out from the barn, you can drop the reins and that horse is going to take you that whole circuit all the way back on, and it goes perfectly smooth and wonderful all the time until that one time it don't. And then you got a horse that's losing its damn mind and creating havoc. It ain't no different. You know, and people aren't going to do it. You can already see it now. I actually was speaking to somebody not that long ago, and I was talking about how I didn't like the blind spot. You know, I do not like the blind spot indicators, because I believe, and I have seen, that they don't all function equally, and in some cases, not at all do they pick up a motorcyclist. And then the person I was having a conversation with turned around and said, well, I like them because I don't have to turn my head to see if something's there. Can you connect the knots there? Now, so another article I saw, which this is gonna quite be a choppy one because I'm rambling. But another article I read has something to do with, in the next 5 years, they're going to start putting, you know, adaptive cruise control and adaptive braking and everything on a motorcycle as well. So you want to make, I know BMW's already got their own self-riding motorcycle. It's freaking hideous, for one. And two, I just don't, that defeats the purpose to me of having a motorcycle. At that point, you might as well just have a car, because part of the freedom is maneuvering your motorcycle and doing stuff. Let's go ahead and make flat carpets while we're at it. Shit, I don't know, the idea of stuffing more technology into motorcycles, it irks me. I don't like the amount of technology that's stuffed into cars now. And it's not because I don't think cars should be safer or more efficient. I do believe these things are good. It's how the technology is being used or not being used that bothers me. For instance, a lot of the technology that's in your car now is to make it to where you can't fix it yourself. Yes, it makes it more efficient. Yes, it makes it where it's safer. But the flip side to that too is the manufacturers don't want you fixing this yourself. They want you to take it to the dealership. They want you to spend the money there. All right, the right to repair act's a thing. And you know, it's the same thing with, like, for instance, Triumph. If I wanted to do anything with the Triumph, I would have to buy a Triumph computer. I know there's ways, don't get me wrong, but for average Joe, you would go to the shop would have to have the Triumph computer, which talks to it. And if it's after a certain year model, if you hook it up to something that's not the Triumph computer, what it will do is the Triumph computer will actually lock the ECU. Now, how messed up is that? You paid $10,000, $15,000 for your motorcycle. You could plug in an OBD2 scan tool, scan it or try to do something with it, and then your vehicle won't start because they have an interlock design on it to where if you do that, it locks it out. They had the same problem with tractors a few years back, and it's still kind of a problem where they were making it to where farmers couldn't work on their newer tractors. So in those cases, that's why I don't like the technology. I mean, long story short, when the technology is used to take advantage of the consumer or to allow for negligent operation of a vehicle, that's when I have a problem with the technology in a vehicle. So, don't get me wrong, ain't nothing wrong with being more efficient or safer. Nothing at all. But people aren't going to use them that way. They're just not, you know. It would be cool if this was a moot argument, but it's not. People are going to find everything they can, every way they can, not to have to pay attention. I mean, without all the automated systems in newer vehicles, you got people with their face in their phones all the time. So you can argue it's a moot point. So now that one picked me up. That's pretty cool. So that one picked me up once I was in the blind spot. I've had some that wouldn't. So I mean, it really is hit or miss. Oh my god, man. You know, and like I said earlier, I'm going to put all the link in the description, all the links in the description of the articles I'm talking about, and just, you know, I really suggest that you guys read it for yourself, and I would love to hear your view on all the automated systems that they're putting on cars and they're going to try to put on motorcycles. You know, I would like to hear what your take on it is, so please hit me up in the comments, hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Feel free. So everybody, it's the Wingnut. I'd like to tell you to like, dislike, subscribe. It's on you. Have a good one.